என்ற இணையதளத்துக்கு சென்று ஏராசா டிரைவர்ஸ் ஆப்பினை டவுன்லோட் செய்து டிரைவர்ஸாக வேலை வாய்ப்பை பெறுங்கள். மாதாந்தம் $4000 வரை சம்பாதியுங்கள். வணிக நிறுவனங்கள் ஏராசா இணையதளத்தின் மூலம் மளிகைப் பொருட்கள் மற்றும் உணவுப் பொருட்களை விற்பதோடு வாடிக்கையாளர்களுக்கு டெலிவரி செய்யலாம். தமிழில் தகவல்களை அறியாளையுங்கள். GTA பற்றி 40 ஆண்டுகள் அறிந்து கொண்டவரும் வீடு விற்பனை துறையூடாக மக்களால் அறியப்பட்டவருமான சிவா பிள்ளை. 416-854-0005. Taxi broker licensed by City of Toronto. ஏராசா ரைட் ஷேரிங் கம்பெனி ARASA.ca என்ற இணையதளத்துக்கு சென்று ஏராசா டிரைவர்ஸ் ஆப்பினை டவுன்லோட் செய்து டிரைவர்ஸாக வேலை வாய்ப்பை பெறுங்கள். மாதாந்தம் $4000 வரை சம்பாதியுங்கள். வணிக நிறுவனங்கள் ஏராசா இணையத்தை சிட்டி ஆஃப் டொரண்டோ.
Recording in
All right.
progress.
So for those that are just on the call right now, this will be the last session for Gopa for this season. So today's session will be basically discussing about everything that we've spoken about in the last 2 months throughout Gopa's sessions, summing it and giving some pointers, and especially giving an opportunity for everyone to ask questions if there's any. But basically overall, a small little summary, something like that. So Gopa will be going through highlighting some of the major points, for agents to look forward to, especially while the summer market begins or comes upon us very soon. With that in mind, Gopa, I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kanna. And I know that you're going to be in and out, but that's fine. So good morning, everyone. So thank you once again for joining this. I see the names; it's pretty consistent, which is very happy to see that. And I love that commitment. So what we're going to do, as Kanna just mentioned, this is we will treat this as a wrap-up session. Okay. So when I say the wrap-up session is, first of all, I highly encourage you folks, those who are on the phone, ask questions. As I said, that even if you know about it, or maybe you must have gone through something which was difficult, and if you have overcome, put that question in the chat box, or please feel free to ask that question, because that's going to immensely help with the rest of the folks on the call, right? I mean, they may not have actually experienced what you have gone through. So let's talk through that. This is a wrap-up session, so we will actually discuss few things, and I also wanted to actually the topics what we have discussed for the last 3-4 weeks. So anything in particular you wanted to have any question and all that, first I will ask for that. Any volunteers, put it in the chat box, or any particular topics you wanted to actually discuss, we can do it like that, or else I'll just go through the wrap-up point. So anybody on the chat box, anybody wants to unmute yourself and ask some questions, if there is something, whether it is time management or a goal setting, so all right, let me share my screen. Can you?
Yeah, I'm gonna make that available, right?
Okay. All right. So again, guys, just put some thoughts, your question in the chat box, and we will go through those ones. And if there is some particular topics, if you guys have actually thought about asking, or if you were not clear about what we have discussed, I'm happy to take that, and then we can collectively discuss on those ones. So what did we actually discuss, right? I mean, first of all, why is this training, right? You think about it, or training or a coaching, two different things. Like, it's a coaching is some things which you already know, and then you're sharpening your skills. It's so this is, think about it, think about any Raptors players or cricket players and all that. Where do they spend maximum time? They spent maximum time on coaching, right? I mean, and the reason is, it's not that they are actually learning some new skills from that coaching session, because obviously they are better than their coach, but that's the reason. The coach is not the one. How many of you know, if you take any of the players, like, you guys will know the player's name, but can anybody tell you who is the coach for that player? No, right? Because the reason is, the coach is behind the scene, but the player is one it's actually coming up and lifting the trophy. So people would know the players, but not the coach. But they spent majority of the time in doing coaching throughout the year. When they are not playing and all that, they spend time on the coaching. So it's not that they're learning new skill. What they're doing is they're sharpening the skills. So the coaching is an important thing. So please don't think that those who are actually been doing this, you think that, fine, what, I'm fine with this, I know what it is, I'm not going to learn anything. So that's not true. You need to continuously coach yourself, or find something, whether it is a self coaching, or find a mentor and all that. You should actually continue to focus on that one, right? And then the training. So remember, the training and the coaching is two different things, right? I mean, coaching is some things which you already know and you're continuously sharpening that skill is coaching. Like, I mean, you are into that process and you're actually getting expert in that one, whereas training is some things you are learning something new skill. Like, I mean, whether it is whatever the skill, whether it is a technical skill about some forms, or like, I mean, the legal thing and all that, which is on the end this thing, that is you getting training. So you need to really understand these two different. So regardless whether you are actually new in the industry, new in the real estate business, or somebody who's actually experienced, you still need to continue to focus on both sides. How is it? It's definitely going to, what's the bottom line? It's definitely going to assist you to becoming an effective and an efficient salesperson, right? I mean, that's the key in this. You need to be effective and an efficient, right? Like, it's a very important in these two things. You need to especially in today's markets, you have to show that professionalism, and also increased confidence and motivation. Confidence is you need to have that motivation and the confidence, because in today's world, when anybody asks you, how's the market? Okay, I think can somebody can you mute yourself, please? Hi, can you mute yourself?
Go, just give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to make you host again, okay?
Okay, no problem. Thank you. I haven't got it, I think. Oh, yeah. Right. So again, coming back to that point, why what we have been doing all this. So this is going to increase your confidence and motivations. Confidence is definitely, you have to confidently deal the situations, whether you're door knocking, when you're prospecting, or you're talking to a client who's already been doing it. If you don't show the confidence, it is very difficult to change that, move that client to an the transaction. So it is very important that is you demonstrate that relevant confidence, right? When you're actually talking about, especially when someone who's actually talking about the investors, and you have to confidently talk, right? I mean, what do they are buying on your words, right? I mean, the trust you have built with them is what it's actually going to deal with them. So that you can demonstrate, only you have confidence in saying that. When somebody actually asks you about that, is that how's the market in, I'm planning to invest somewhere, so how's that market is going to grow? If you don't have that kind of knowledge, if you're not able to actually really convince them, yes, that's, if you buy it today, that market is going to grow in after this, and how you're going to actually talk about it, not just speculating things. You have data to support your conversation, so that you can only actually gain it if you constantly stay connected with the industry updates, and also checking on the MLS and all those ones. So that's very important, that is you continuously do that. So right, I mean, increase, so this one will, coaching and training will help you to increase confidence and motivation, right? And the power of planning and the personal accountability, right? The planning, we spoke about 3S, right? I mean, that's the holistic picture about the real estate business. The 3S is your system, your schedule, and your strategy, right? So it is the 3S is an important things. Like, you need to really work on those ones. What are the strategy? What's your game plan into this business, right? I mean, are you going to focus on pre-construction? Are you only going to focus on investors? Are you only going to go on a condo? Or are you going to look into the farming area, right? I mean, where you're actually going to, and your business model is only going to be door knocking, or you're only going to work with the, people whom you are actually know, with your center of influence, are you going to work? So what's your strategy? What's your game plan? You need to know that. And that's why like, I mean, if you're not having that game plan, if you're not having that strategies, it's very difficult to be successful in that. So you have to be really clear, okay, this is what you're going to do it, right? I mean, your main strategy, like you obviously, you probably won't be able to only sustain with the door knocking or only sustain with that, but your main source of thing, right? I mean, you have to understand what's your niche market. Like, I mean, so you need to really focus on that one. So yes, that strategy. And your schedule, the schedule is something which you're going to really look into that, how you actually starting the business, like, I mean, your morning till evening and till Monday to Friday or weekends and all that, what's your schedule and all that, how you're actually managing that, whether scheduling means not just getting work on time, like each time, like how much time you're spending on your checking on, okay, this time I blocked for MLS in the morning, and this time I blocked on returning to calls, phone calls and voice messages and all that, this time so like that, like, I mean, what's your schedule, right? And then your system, the system is something when you take your client from the beginning till end, like after when you start prospecting till closing the deal and handing over the keys, right? I mean, what's the system you're actually following through that, right? So that's what it's actually real estate business is, the 3S. Like, so you remember your system, so your strategy, your schedule, and the system, right? So that's what it's the power of planning and personal accountability. And of course, you need to be like very competitive, like, I mean, you have to make sure that is your outsmarting the other competition. So because that's where you stay on top of things, you have a proper system in place, you are actually have schedule and all that, and you're confident about what you're talking. So that's what it's actually going to help you to sustain in this market, right? And then sustainability, like you don't want to actually do business for some time and then again like going out of that. So it is very important that is you stay focused on that one, right? So what are the topics we discussed in this one? So let me see, there are a couple of messages on the chat box. Can you add individual? Yes, Karna, I'll do that. Yep. Yes, I have been doing. All right. Okay. So what are the topics we discussed today? I mean, I discussed for the last 4 weeks, like, I mean, almost 2 months, I believe, like, I mean, 6 weeks, we have 8 weeks, sorry, 8 weeks, we have actually discussed this. So what was the first one? We just, and this is kind of a reminder to all of you guys. And I purposefully just put this topics, what are the topics we covered, and I am happy to actually pick up that particular topic and discuss that in detail. If you have anything which you wanted to discuss, what's the time management, right? Time management, we discussed about the most important piece, right? So think about it. The time management is important and the urgent, right? You need to really understand your important task and the urgent task. The important task, you have to continuously focus on the important task, right? When you ignore the important task, that's what become an urgent task later on, right? There will be unforeseen circumstances. Life is not a cookie cutter, I understand. But for an example, is important task is like, think about it, your personal life. You have a garden, right? I mean, and you water that plant on a daily basis, right? Let's say by at 4 o'clock in the evening. So at 4 o'clock in the evening is the time your child is coming back from school. So it's time, like, I mean, so do you water the plant at 4 o'clock, or do you go and pick up the child from the bus stop, right? So obviously, you no brainer, you will go and pick up the child from the bus stop. So that's an urgent matter, right? But when you come back, what you have to focus on that the important activities, which is watering the plant, you can't actually ignore that, because then that activity will become urgent, because the plant is going to die and then you have to do something. So the point here is, you need to continue to focus your important activities on a daily basis, right? When you ignore the important activities, that becomes an urgent activity, that will become a firefighter situation. For example, when you're actually in your real estate world, you get a client, that the closing is going to happen on a 15th of May or whatever the date, right? You get the paperwork, all those things, like APS and all those things, and you prepare the client to do the mortgage well in time, and then you send the papers to the lawyer, right? I mean, you don't want it to wait till 3 days or 2 days prior to that closing time, and that's the time where lawyer will look at the documents and say that, okay, this is missing, that is missing, right? And then that becomes an urgent, that becomes a firefighting situation. So plan that well ahead. So all activities in your life, like, I mean, not just the real estate, if you actually really look at your activities and the important activities, if you start taking care of it, like that will become an in a smooth sailing. Like, I mean, you don't that if you ignore that, that is what it's going to become an urgent or a firefighting situation. Again, I understand there will be a situation like, you can that is because life is it's not going to work the way it is, but majority of the time, like, you think about the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time you do the right things, and the 20% is some things which you cannot actually control on that, right? So that's one thing about the time management. And the other thing about the time management, I'll give you another, and the point is, plan your week and the day, right? And the reason is, like, when I say the plan your week, like, on if your week is ending, let's say by Friday is your week is ending, or maybe Saturday, Sunday, whatever the day, you pick a day, and then if that's what your week is going to end, and that night you plan it for the next week, the next till Friday. Like, I mean, write down the important activities. What are the things you have to actually accomplish that? Or you put your wild goal. Wild goal is, by end of this Friday, you have to finish maybe 3 or 4 activities, right? I mean, you write down that. And then on a daily basis, you review that, because as the day goes, as the week goes, things will change. So you have to adjust that schedule for the weekly schedule. So you should have a weekly plan, review that, and tweak it based on the daily plan, right? I mean, so every day morning, so that when you get up in the morning, okay, what's in for today, right? I mean, it's not that you're going to start figuring out, okay, what am I going to do it, whether it is prospecting, whether it is door knocking, or following lead, or your like, I mean, whatever the activities you're doing. But if you're doing open house, okay, you need to keep your like, I mean, your flyers and the websites ready and all that. So you need to have that plan, that. So weekly plan, review that, and on a daily plan, right? I mean, daily plan. So that's actually going to be really a smooth sailing. So that, okay, what's going to happen. So that will really help you to, manage your important activities. And then majority of the times, those important activities are not going to get ignored, and that's not going to become an urgent activity later on, right? So that's the time management. Like, again, we spoke about a lot about the time management. That this is just as a refresher to you all, right? The other thing about the time management, think about it, dig the well before you're thirsty, right? You don't want it to actually run around at the last minute. For example, those who are new, and like, you are sitting there, you got the license and you haven't done any deal and all that, it is okay. You should actually utilize this time to pick up all the forms. And how do you make an offer? How do you make a lease offer? How do you make a rent like, I mean, actual offer, condominium offer, or some like, I mean, freehold? You have to make a just play around with that, right? I mean, take the form, because otherwise, once you get an offer at the last minute, what are you going to do? Like, I mean, you don't know what to do. Like, I mean, your client, you're prospecting, and your client said that, yes, I'm ready to put an offer for this one. So you don't know what to. And I have seen people who are licensed because they haven't done any deal in the past. And when you get a license, doesn't mean that is you're going to be, because the real world and what you learn in the classroom is two different things, right? So that's what I said, that so dig the well before you're thirsty. So if you haven't done any deal and you're new to this, utilize this time to practice those, pick up all those forms, but make some dummy offer, and check it with somebody, so that is you are actually, the more you are comfortable with those ones, it's going to be easy for you. And that's where, and also the other thing, you should take time to read the contract. Those ones are, you're not a legal expert, but you should know what is written on this contract and how do you interpret in as a real estate agent. Like you cannot actually say that, no, I'm not aware of that, I don't know about it, right? But at the same time, your job is to give that, the basic information, and of course it's a lawyer's job to interpret. And like, I mean, we are not real estate agents are not lawyers, so I understand that, but you should have some idea about the forms and all that, and that but once you read the contract, and you should be able to walk them through that, what it is, what it means on each clause. Like, I mean, what is holdover period means, what is, UFFI, like, I mean, all those kind of things, like you should know, on that. So that's also and a good time management tool. Like, you spend that time well in advance before you are running around that. So dig the well before you are thirsty, right? So it's very important that is you are actually preparing yourself for that. Anything on the chat box, folks? Okay, let me ask you, like, any other topic, like, I'll touch on all those topics, all these topics below, just the high level. But in the meanwhile, by looking at my screen, is anybody wants to talk about any of those particular topic? Either in the chat box or unmute yourself, and if you wanted to ask, I don't mind spending time onto that. This is kind of a wrap-up session, guys. Like, it's for you, and as I said, that Kanna and your brokerage is spending a lot of time and money on you guys. Like, it's again, the goal is they want you guys to be successful, right? I mean, I don't see that many brokerages are actually generally spend this amount of time and the commitment. They're pretty much, because you guys are all on your own, right? I mean, all that, whatever the dust fee and whatever the deal fee and all that is not something which is, the others are actually really concerned about it. It's like, so you are running your own business, so you are your own boss. But I see a difference here, like in Kanna, and they are very committed on you guys. So make sure that is you understand that the effort they are putting on you, and like, I mean, that the time and the money what they're putting on you, it's for your success. So remember one thing, all this kind of training, the sessions, they can bring many people like me and come and, like, I mean, everybody will give you somewhat the same topic, the same lectures, and right, I mean, and then ultimately, the speed of implementation, right? I mean, the speed of implementation means who's going to actually do this, right? We can tell you, like, I mean, you do the time management and do that, like, but ultimately it's you. Like, I mean, you are the owner of this, you are the personal accountability, right? I mean, the speed of implementation is what it's going to be, make you successful person, right? If you are not going to implement, if you're not going to do that, it's as good as not knowing it, right? So it's important that is, these things, and you have to start doing it. And there is nothing like, okay, fine, I'm going to start later. You should do it. If you haven't done that, you should do it today onwards. Like, I mean, it's right now. Like, the speed of implementation is what you're going to actually see the difference in what you're doing it. Otherwise, all this knowledge is there, and if you don't make it into practical, there's no point in doing that, right? So time management, we spoke about it. So nothing on the chat box. Anybody wants to ask any questions?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Gopa and all. This is Mohan. I just want to quickly, if you can go through, because of the current market, the pricing, the listing property, compared to a couple months ago, 2-3 months ago, and now there's a really big gap. So can you quickly touch on that, the current market? Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the pricing, like, I mean, again, definitely there is there all kinds of talks are there in the market. And again, the correction, you say that, and an approximate number is around 10 to 15% is the correction, right? I mean, because that's what the impact is actually happened in the markets. And today's market, they're saying that 10 to 15%. So if something which was, so remember one thing, in the past 2 months during the pandemic, for something happened and nobody knows that, the houses were actually over asking, and majority of them were also actually priced it little low, and then they were actually getting it the $300,000-$200,000 over asking and all that. So that was one thing was happening there. So today's market, what you have to do is you have to price it correctly, right? I mean, what is the client is expecting? If the client is expecting, and which is realistic, like I know that the sellers has become very greedy, right? To be honest, because obviously they have seen the neighbor, next door neighbor sold for this much for 2 months back or 3 months back. So that's not reality now. It is, again, what do we control? We control the condition, right? I mean, you cannot actually what the market prices. Market prices actually what the price is always driven by the market, and there are so many things which is actually the ripple effect, the mortgage and the thing, and then whatever the things actually going on, and all those things are actually going to do it. So to your point, you have to have that real number with the client. Like, and if the client is expecting us, $1 million, like, I mean, that's what it, let's say buy a townhome, and then you are actually do your due diligence in CMA and find out, what was sold in 2 months. Obviously there is a 15%, 10 to 15%, you have to factor in that, right? I mean, it's not going to, and that's where you have to educate your client, like, what happened in the last 2 months, and there is definitely the mortgage rate is going up, and then all those things are happening, and then there is actually an effect to the overall real estate market, and it's a no-brainer. Every information is there, right? So you have to put that 10 to 15% into consideration, and then price it correctly what the client is expecting, right? I mean, instead of overpricing or underpricing, that's not what you should be doing it in today's market. You should price it if that actual price of that house is $1 million, yeah, price it for $1 million, $999 and all that, right? I mean, so that you're not going to actually, and making sure that so that the client is not going to get upset, right? I mean, it's instead of actually getting it price it low and then you getting it. So sometime what is happening on that, if you price it for 800,000 to get that 100,000, where the client's expectation is a 9 million and 900,000, and whereas you priced it for 800,000 thinking that 100,000 over asking will come, I think, in my opinion, that can be really challenging, because the buyers are also thinking that, let me negotiate that. And that's why you see a lot of today's MLS. If you really check that, you will see a lot of suspended, terminated listings are there, because the client actual expectation is $1 million. You priced it for 900,000 thinking that 100,000 will be over asking. So you should, in my opinion, I think, and I will let others also, those who are experienced people will also actually chime in here. So I think you should price it closer to what the client is expecting. In that way, it's a realistic pricing. And of course, you have to see the condition of the house, the area, and the, do your comparative market analysis, and the data search and all that, and don't just do the comparative market analysis only for the street. Position in that community, that's some things you have to, the map search, you don't want to actually just say that, and that's what you have to do that. And one thing which you should actually, if anybody actually, and that's actually a good solid CMA, and if you put it in the market, and when anybody coming to show, and send that CMA to that showing agents, the cooperating broker sales agents also, because you are setting the expectation not to come up with some random numbers, because you're showing that due diligence, you have already done that CMA, you already actually done your homework, and that's why you came up with this price with your client. So those who are actually coming to see the buyer agents, you are also actually setting them the right expectation. This is the CMA, this is what the numbers are showing it. Of course, they have all done it, but you're being proactive and helping them to come up with the right numbers on that. So that's what I'm going to actually ask others. Is anybody can you chime in?
Yeah, the seller is always greedy. So you said about the market price. Market price mean the buyer willing to pay for the house. So the seller doesn't realize how much the problem for the buyer to get the house. It's an overvalue. When you have a price seller and they have to pay the difference from the pocket. When you're going to get the listing, we got to teach them for the seller. Think about the buyer and how they're going to buy this property for this price, and their problem the financial and the bank issue, interest rate. You got to tell them, they got to educate them seller. So you too greedy and the problem you see other end. So the people always they're asking more money to get right now. What I'm saying that one, most of us we are using for the trip, but the other property, so much other property that you don't see it here. So my suggestion, you need to buy for the metrics. The metric is about $300 for 4 months. I will say about say $1,200 per year. There's so many property in the metrics. For example, 8 unit you could buy for 1.4 million out of Toronto. You don't see it here. So my suggestion, buy that one. Even you sold one property, you get up money around $25,000, $1,200, nothing. Get the metrics. So you could see the expose other property, you could see it. People will go in the trip, check it, oh, we don't have any property. It's like a conservative looking for the small area. So to buy for the metrics, you could improve your business.
Well, that's a very good point you mentioned. Like, thank you, Siva. So metrics is, I mean, just for my own knowledge. So it's a different, like, I mean, other, it's not connected with the MLS. It's a different tool.
Yeah, that's a good one. People they're thinking this is the property, we have it here, and we could go out of the Toronto and get something. Kannan, are you online right now? Kannan?
No, I think, I mean, he was going in and out. He has got some. Okay.
Okay. I have a question. What is the setback for the government when he increased the interest rate? He's firing back to them. For example, the city is not going to make enough money for that. When you do the more transaction, they're getting a more land transfer tax.
Absolutely.
So what is the other impact for the government when you increase the interest rate?
Well, I mean, there is around, the study says that there is around 72 industries directly related to the, real estate market. You really think about the industries are, the Home Depot, the, like, I mean, the blind guys, the painters, the, all those things. Like, so definitely there is a huge impact to the government, to the economy, right? I mean, it is, all this is going to slow down. Like, I mean, look at the number 72 industry, and this is, I'm actually talking about the major one. Then there are small ones such as the printers, the guy who's actually put the post on the lawn. Like, there are so many things are there, right? I mean, but so that is definitely they had to do the correction, right? I mean, it was actually, and that was it was important. And correction, they could only do the corrections with adjusting the interest rate. There was nothing else they could have done it. There was definitely, it was an inflated market. We all knew, right? For the last 2 years, it was, even you guys are actually, as a professional, felt that it is unrealistic. Houses like, rundown house was selling it for million 1.2. I'm sure that I have heard from real estate agents, I'm feeling bad to buy for my buyer this rundown house. But at the same time, there was nothing was available. So people were actually doing it. So that's not the case. So the correction had to happen, right?
Yeah.
So the correction, that's what has happened. And the correction is 10 to 15%, right? And now I think, I mean, this is also will slow down. Like, I mean, slow down in the sense, like, people will accept. Right now, this is a transition time. Right? I mean, so everybody think that, okay, fine. I mean, if the prices are going to fall down, prices are going to go down, and that's not true. Prices are not going to go down. I don't think so, because again, that's because of the direct impact to the economies is much more than that. As you mentioned, where do the like, I mean, the government make money, the city make money? They make money only from the land transfer tax, right? I mean, it is all those kind of things. So definitely look at the bank. What is bank? Bank will do only. But what is bank's business? Bank will sell cash, buy cash. That's only two things bank is doing it, nothing else, right? I mean, sell cash means mortgage, right? I mean, mortgage is definitely that selling cash. So they don't want it to hurt their business as well. Where do the business come from them? So correction had to happen. So they did this interest rate, and they are actually a little bit of, actually, when we really look at the foreign investors and all that, is little, it happened. So it will slow down. This is a transition time. It will come back. Prices will remain the same. it's going to be slightly hard for the first time buyers, no doubt, because the interest rate is high. The $200-300 is going to be monthly difference for salaried people. It is sometimes it can be really challenging.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So the government cannot also actually, like Canada, if you really look at the Canada's economy, unlike US and all that, Canada does not have a specific industry, right? It is, and especially when Ontario is all financial institutions. Like, if you go to the west side, and then at least mining, oil and all that there, but in Canada is pretty much, it's all, it's just not a specific industry is there. So and majority of the people here, their savings is based on the real estate. So they're not going to actually really hurt that severely. So definitely the correction had to happen. And that's why, Mohan, you were asking about the pricing, at least 10 to 15%. So you set the right expectation. As Siva mentioned, you give the correct picture to them. Listen, 2 months back, 1 year back, things were different. Understand, and that's the way it is, right? But you cannot have that expectation into that, right? You set them the right expectation, price it properly. Price it properly means what is their expectation, and based on the current market condition, is that realistic? And that's where you bring your professionalism. You have to do the due diligence in terms of doing the right CMA, adjust the price and all those things, and then price it, put it in the right thing. And again, market is what it's actually going to do that. Sometime you get the offer, and it doesn't mean it's still, when you really, I'm sure that you guys will also agree to that, right properties are still selling at the right price, right? It's not that it's not moving in and all that, right? Siva, do you agree that? You're on mute.
So they say well-listed property sell well.
Yeah.
So well-listed means right price.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The right properties, price it right. Price it, the property is good. Absolutely, it's going to sell that. So again, the second topics we discussed on the prospecting, that's the backbone of your business, right? I can't stress enough the importance of prospecting. Prospecting is what? Finding the right people, who's going to do business with you, right? That's what it's prospecting. Your focus in the morning is there is somebody in the market in this area who wants to buy and sell. Let me find that person. That's the mindset you need to have it, right? So prospecting is two sets of prospecting. One is people whom you know, people whom you don't know, right? You have to really separate that. People whom you know is obviously your friends, family, circles, that the center of influence and all that. Those are the people whom you know. People whom you don't know is, it's where you actually getting through door knocking, getting through some, social circles and, cold calls and all those things is where the people whom you know, people whom you don't know. And through, WCE, which is withdrawn, cancel, expired listing, you can also under for sale by owners, those are the people whom you don't know. So you're prospecting on both side. Again, initially I mentioned about the strategy, so you really see that, what's your prospecting strategy. Then your past clients and web of influence. The past clients is you have dealt with them, whether it is leasing or you sold them or bought them, or anything, any transaction you have done it. Obviously, you don't want to actually miss those people. They have dealt with you, and you actually, the best thing in this business, and majority of the time, the referral business is what it's actually more powerful, because and the referral comes and only if you have service that client well. Otherwise, think about it, right? If you haven't actually serviced, their experience is not really good with you, obviously they're not going to come back to you, or they're not going to refer anything to you. So the best thing, if you are actually a successful person, where it shows that you service that clients, you are actually build the trust with them, and that's where you're going to get the reference back from them, right? And we spoke about creating the client database. Guys, again, prospecting, this is all directly connected with the other 3 S's again, like your system, strategy, schedule, right? The importance of creating the client database. You need to have a database. I had shown the samples to you all. You can make it as simple as making it in any Excel or maybe some CRM, customers relationship management, something like that. You can use some tools. If you have established people, you have that, leverage to spend that money, take some CRM tool, or else make it just as a simple in the Excel spreadsheet. basically, contact number, their name, and what you spoke to them last, right? Because that's what it's actually. If you don't have the client database, if you're just going to rely on your telephone directory, you will miss out a lot of people, and you don't want to do it. And also you will tend to call the same people over and over. You don't want to do that either, because but sometimes they get irritated, and you don't want to actually upset them. You wanted to actually get connected. Your number one priority in this business is stay connected with people. That's all. When the people whom and when they think about buying and selling, they have to think about you, right? Your name should be coming into their mind, no other name, when it comes to any real estate business. And that happens only if you stay connected with them, if you remind them you are in this business, right? That's what. So having a client database is an important thing. So you create that. Those who don't have a client database, and again, if you think that oh, well, I haven't done any deal, I don't have to do it, that's not true. Then you're never going to get actually do that. So client database is an important thing. So make sure that is you start working on the client database. As I showed, that simple Excel spreadsheet is also good enough, right? Anything else on the chat box? Anybody wants to ask any question? No? Okay. Nothing on the chat box. All right. Then we spoke about handling objections. Handling objection is, again, this is something which is an important piece in the business. You will come across many objections through prospecting, through showing houses, to negotiating, right? And all that. So handling objection is what? Handling objection in simple terms is basically clearing somebody's doubt, right? Somebody, you mentioned you had spoken to someone something, and they're not clear about your suggestion. So that's what they have question. So you have to be prepared to answer that. So basically, in handling objection is clearing their doubts, right? You make sure that is you help them in understand and your point, what are you trying to say, and that's what the handling objection is, right? And a difference of opinion, you need to actually have understand that, and you can only do that if you have mastered on what you're doing it, right? If you are not sure about that, you won't be able to actually handle their objections or difference of opinions. And we discussed about certain techniques, certain the psychology behind in the handling objections. In sales, the best thing is listening is the skill you need to develop, right? That's the most important thing. You need to actually do that. Not that you're selling doesn't mean that you're actually you need to chat a lot, it's on the other way around. Selling means you should develop the listening skill, and once you listen to that, what their objections, then you should be able to actually understand and help them in clearing the doubt and clearing the difference of opinion at that, right? Then the customer service, we spoke about the customer service. Customer service is an important thing in this. Again, delighting the customer, right? The customer experience, right? From touch point A till touch point Z. What are you, how you actually managing everything? What kind of communication strategies you're doing it? How effectively you are actually delivering the things what you have committed, right? How you actually responding to your phone calls and all that. You think about that service, and you're preparing your client well in advance. When you're actually, they had mentioned to you, they want to see a house in certain neighborhood, their budget is this much, but you're instead of just blindly sending some listing and all that, you do meet their expectation in that way. When you're doing the selecting or booking an appointment and all that, you're making sure that is you're meeting their needs. So it's important that is that customer service, that's what it's actually going to get the repeated customers. They're coming back and they're actually going to refer you to that their friend circle and all that, right? So customer service. We spoke about goal setting and motivation, right? Goal setting, again, who can motivate you? No one else. You have to motivate yourself. You should know that what you want. We mentioned about that goal setting, the three triangle, right? Your personal, your personal, professional, and the financial, right? I mean, so we mentioned about the goal setting things, right? I mean, your personal life and your professional life and the financial life, right? I mean, it's basically, if you focus more on your personal life, obviously your professional life and the financial life will get impacted. But so you have to really understand what's important. Like, I mean, if you're beginning in the career, then obviously you need to really balance those three corner well. You set the goal, which is the SMART goal, right? I mean, we mentioned about the SMART goal, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and the timeline, right? The SMART goal, right? It should be specific. Like, you don't want it to say that I want to be a successful real estate agent. Well, that's a very broad goal setting. Like, you don't want it to do something like that. You have to have a specific goal. By end of 2022, I wanted to earn commission, $200,000 commission by selling X number of houses, right? I mean, that's what the specific goal is with it. So if you put that commission as 100,000, so you're going to sell houses, something, price range around $1 million, because around, like $25,000 is the commission for $1 million house. So how many houses you need to sell? That means, I'm just throwing the number here. So maybe 4 houses you need to sell to get the 100,000 commission based on $25,000, right? So that's what a specific goal, right? You don't want it to have a broad goal, which is, like, I mean, I wanted to be a successful real estate agent. Doesn't mean anything. So very specific goal, you have to actually do that. And the motivation is, think about it. Why did you come to real estate? Like, there are so many other jobs available here. You came to real estate business thinking that this is actually, you can make money. You spend some money to get the license. Like, I mean, you invested some time into that. So that is, you need to really answer to that. So motivate yourself. You have to actually really know what is that, what's the goal behind that, why did I get the license? There are so many other jobs available. So I decided to come to real estate business, that because you thought about this is going to be more lucrative, right? So you need to really understand. So goal setting, again, you should do that. Those who haven't done that goal setting, you should do it. It is actually already late. Like, you should do the goal setting at the beginning of the year. Like, you have to really set the goal for the whole year, and then on a review that on a daily basis, that how far are you from your goal, right? So maybe by, like in a December timeframe, you should do the goal for the whole year for the coming year. So that's what, by end of this year, I'm going to make commission this much, and these are the people I'm going to actually deal with that, and what are the hurdles and how many hours you're going to do that. So that proper goal settings, you have to do that, right? Then, lead follow-up. Like, majority of the times people don't follow up, right? And the statistics says only on the 4th contact is where you really get a transaction, when a lead become a transaction, right? Because you have to develop the trust with them. So they're not going to actually do business with you in the 1st or 2nd or a 3rd contact, right? The 4th contact is where, like, I mean, it's slowly that becomes you're building the trust, and they're actually going to, start talking about serious business, right? But majority of the time, 1st or 2nd times, once you actually contact with them, people actually don't follow up, thinking that, this business is too hard. They're not actually giving any indication to do business with you. Like, I mean, so you get disheartened. Like, I mean, so, but that's not what it is. You have to follow up with them. So it is lead follow up as an important thing into that, right? Then we touched on the negotiating contracts, like the most important thing. Like, I mean, as we mentioned about how do we negotiate the contract when you're actually with the buyer side, or you're actually as the listing agent. Listing agent, the negotiation is, helping the seller in negotiating the contract. Convincing them putting the right price, right? I mean, telling them, this is what it's actually the right prices, like you're putting the negotiating the contract. And the other thing is, also you're actually helping them when you get an offer, helping them in accepting the right offer to them, right? I mean, think about the negotiation skill. Negotiation is basically like, make sure that is your biggest job in this business is prospecting, negotiating, and the customer service, right? I mean, that's actually the qualities, and a good salesman should have it. So negotiating the contract is an important thing. So don't just focus just on the pricing, right? I mean, negotiation is actually in a combination of multiple things. Like, think about what kind of offers are coming, the closing date, all that take into consideration and help the seller to negotiate the contract. And same way on the buyer side, if you're representing on the buyer side, also do the same thing. Like, I mean, what offer actually are you putting in? The basic principle in the negotiation is, if you know about the product well, you're always on the upper hand, right? I mean, that's why car sales guys, you cannot win the car sales guys what they say, because you don't know many thing about it. They open the hood and talk about a lot about the engines, which you have, majority of the people don't have any clue, right? So that's because if you know about the product, that the person who has got the most knowledge will have an upper hand in the negotiation. That's the basic principle. So it's actually, so you should know what you're talking about, the market condition, the price, and like, I mean, that in that areas. And so whether it is a buyer and the seller side, it's both, it's actually the same techniques you master that. So negotiating the contract. Pricing property, we just spoke about this. Pricing properties is actually, it's an important thing, right? Again, how do you come up with the right pricing is knowing that the market condition, right? And helping the buyer side or the seller side, really helping them in going with the right offer, or in the seller side putting them in the right listing, right? And that, how do you gain that? Obviously you need to actually go through this listing, and Siva just mentioned another tool as metrics. So you really look into all those things, look at the pricing, what is it actually sold recently, take into consideration about the current market conditions, which is the mortgage conditions, and also 10 to 15% of correction. All those things you take into that and put the right price, and then you're actually helping them on the buyer side, on the seller side. And the other thing is tracking numbers, guys. Like, I mean, you need to know that you have a goal. Like, I mean, you mentioned here in the goal setting, like you are going to earn this much of commission, and by end of the year, this is, you wanted to be successful, and you're going to achieve this thing. So you have a number. So you need to track the numbers. That is actually basically tracking numbers is everything. Like, I mean, your commission, what is the expenses, how many lead follow-up I have actually turned that into a transaction, how many prospects and all that. So all those things you really need to look into that. Tracking the numbers is an important thing. That's actually a self-appraisal tool. Like, that how far are you from your goal versus how successful you are. So tracking numbers is also an important thing. We mentioned about the tracking numbers and all that. Lastly, commitment. As I said, the speed of implementation. No one can actually going to force you what you should be doing it on what we have discussed in all this, right? You are the masters. You know that what need to be done. The speed of implementation, the commitment. You ask that question to yourself. Why did I come to real estate business? There is a goal behind that. There is a reason behind that. So that is only you can actually answer to this, and you have to have that commitment to that. So this is what we discussed in different topics for the last 8 weeks. Again, we touched a lot. Right? We can continue to keep on talking about all this. Bottom line is, the speed of implementations. You are the owner. You need to have the commitment in actually getting those one into practical real life, right? I mean, it is so. Think about that. This is, it's a you always want to make sure that 3S, right? I mean, you are meeting there. Where the shortfalls are there, you need to actually start working on those one, and that commitment is what it's going to make you as a successful real estate agent. And today's market, it's even more. This is actually real test time, right? I mean, again, this is what it is. Actually speaking, this is the way it should be. Like, when you were actually looking at the last 2 years market, it was really painful for real estate agents, because if you are actually representing a buyer, you put multiple offer, and then you don't know. It's quite, sometimes you go through a lot of paperwork, and then it's also like, I mean, it's quite disheartening for you and your client, right? So in a way, this is actually an opportunity. It's the right thing. A serious customer, priced it correctly. Yes, you go with an offer, and like, I mean, your mortgage is done, and the deal is actually going through that. So think about the positive side, rather than actually looking at that, it was there. It was actually a lot of painful thing. last 2 years. And even on this listing agent also last time, even though it was a seller's market and all that, but you as a real estate agent, it was really painful because there are so many offers are coming and your client is becoming greedy. You need to help them in negotiating and all those things. So it's a balanced market right now. It's a balanced market. So it's a good thing for real estate agents and for your clients also. Yes, I mean, unfortunately, the sellers has become very greedy. That's because they tasted that nice thing, right? I mean, now the correction is happening. So that's what this is the reality check. So guys, we are going to be on top of the hour. Like, just again, make it very straightforward. Is there any other questions you have it?
My understanding, Gopa, the interest rate, anybody won't buy the house and then buy it as a variable, even it's going going up, but really it's not going up, but it's going to come down, not for too long. So buying the house, buy with a variable, and buy the variable, and it's not going up. So we see it is going up, but actually going to be hanging in the top interest rate.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, that's why, I mean, there is only so much the government can, they have to do the correction, and that's what they did it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's not going to go up as we all know that, around, as I said, that around 70-75 industries are directly connected with the real estate business, right? I mean, this is only the high high volume industries. There are so many other things are also actually connected with that. So they're not going to hurt all those people, right? I mean, and because there will be a huge impact on the overall the economy in Canada, and I don't think that will be there. So it will calm down. I think June, July time frame.
Expecting on September, and it's going to be coming down.
Yeah. So guys, like, I mean, focus on that, and these things will always be there, and every industry will go through that, but you can't actually do business. I mean, it's not that, like, when it is easy you do it. That's not what it is, right? I mean, you're a professional. This is the way it is, and you have to actually, if you do your due diligence, you will be successful no matter what the market condition is, right? So we will wrap up. Like, I mean, it's 10:30. I also have to go somewhere. So, it is nice speaking with you all as always, and I really appreciate all your support. I am sure that I'll be in touch with Kanna again, and we will see you guys soon. But until such time, brushing up your skill, go through the notes we have discussed, and make sure that you have to have a plan. Good luck to all of you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Menon.
Thank you. Bye.